Hi, everybody, and welcome to another edition of Proline as we continue with the College Football Conference previews, and we're down to just two remaining, one of which we're going to cover today, which will be the Mountain West. Still to come, the big one, the SEC. We'll get to that in the next day or two as the college football season gets underway tomorrow. Jeff Sad from Las Vegas Sports Services is here. I'm Dave Kogan. We're glad to have you with us. Let's update you as to what's going on with special offers. I've got one big game that I'm going to talk about. It goes on Saturday. It's my opening week college crusher. Now, the game will be sold online on Saturday for $49. But you can get it right now, and it is available now. The game's on Saturday, but you don't have to wait until Saturday to get the game. It's available right now for just $25. And I'm guaranteeing this game gets the money. It's going to be a 4-touchdown winner. Now, I'll just to let you know, I'm not talking about a 1-point dog or that's going to be a 28-point winner. It's a good-sized favorite, but they're going to win the game by 4 touchdowns. They'll easily cover the spread. And the guarantee is the game's going to get there, or you get the rest of September free of charge. Only action plays for the entire month. So, again, you can buy it online Saturday for $49, or get it now and bet it now, or you can wait till Saturday to bet it if you want. $25 with the guarantee. 1-866-896-1634 is the number to call. Plays continue to be red hot. 1-866-896-1634. Free plays. They're on a 17-5 run the last 22 days. You can get that free play every day on tape. Today it's a baseball game, obviously, because there's no football tonight. 1-888-712-6800 is that phone number. And that's, again, a free play on tape every day. Or you can get it sent to your cell phone via text message. Just text Kokin, C-O-K-I-N, to 313131. And within seconds, you get back the day's free play on a text message. Jeff, how about you?
Well, I won again on Monday night. I had the Jets, and now on a 17-6 run in the NFL preseason. Baseball is still going strong. I won with the Marlins last night. That was my biggest play. Of course, college football starts this weekend, so I'm going to do the 7 days for $7 special again. $1 a day, 7 days. $7. You're going to get the preseason college football and baseball. Just call the Eversys personal service toll free 1-866-575-8918. 1-866-575-8918.
Well, here we go. They'll look at the Mountain West, and they have a newcomer in their midst, and it's a very good newcomer in Boise State. They're the favorite to win the league. TCU's obviously had some great teams the last few years, but the Horned Frogs maybe not quite as strong this year as they've been, just in terms of how many people they lost. The talent they've got coming in and taking over is it's exceptional. Actually, they may even have better talent, raw talent, now than they've had at all in any of these years. The quarterback position, we'll see. I mean, Andy Dalton was really good, but Jeff, they're loaded. It's just that they're probably a step behind Boise this year because of all the youth on the team.
That's exactly right. I have Boise State winning it again. They are loaded again. They have 8 starters returning on offense, including, of course, quarterback Kellen Moore and running back Doug Martin. They have a great offensive line. 8 starters also return on defense, including three on the line, and the entire linebacking core is back. The Broncos also had a great recruiting year again. But the road to the BCS will be tougher this year. They play Georgia this week. They're 3.5-point favorites. If they win that game, then they have to go to Fresno State. Then they get Nevada at home. That'll be a big revenge game, although this year is going to be a non-conference game. But then they play TCU at home on November 12th. If they win that game and they're still undefeated, the next week they go to San Diego State. And they have 2 things to worry about there. Number one, they'll have to avoid a letdown after the TCU game. Plus, this will be the biggest home game at San Diego State in probably 15 years. So it won't be easy to get to a BCS game this year for Boise State, but I'm still picking them to win this conference. TCU, 2 things of concern, of course, as you said, they have to replace Andy Dalton at quarterback. And number 2, TCU plays all the weaker teams on the schedule at home. They play all the tough teams on the road. Casey Paul Hall played a few games last year. He's taking Dalton's place. He played a few games in a mop-up role, so we'll have to see how that goes. They lost 10 starters overall, but they're still in good shape. Like Gary Patterson always recruits very well. Ed Wesley and Matthew Tucker are back at running back. Top 3 players are back on defense. Tank Carter, Tanner Brock, and Greg McCoy. They play Air Force, San Diego State, and Boise State all on the road. And that's going to be That's going to be the biggest problem, I think, for TCU this year as far as winning this conference. San Diego State, Rocky Long takes over a good situation there. Ryan Lindley, a fourth-year quarterback, was a leading passer in the conference last year. Sophomore Ronnie Hillman rushed for more than 1,500 yards. 4 starters return to the offensive line. They had their best defense in many years last season, but it's going to be tough to match that again this year. They lose 6 starters, but most of the top performers are back, but the defense probably will be a little bit worse than last year, not much. The good thing is they get TCU and Boise at home. Air Force is known for its option offense, but the last few years the defense has been excellent. 8 starters are back from that unit. Tim Jefferson returns to run the option. 3 offensive linemen are back. The big game for Air Force will come early. They host TCU on September 10th. The last 2 times that TCU played at Air Force, both games were decided by field goals, and each team won 1 game. Colorado State, Steve Fairchild's in his 4th year with the Rams, 3-9 each of the last 2 years. He does have Pete Thomas back at quarterback. He had a tremendous freshman season. He threw for nearly 2,700 yards. 4 starters are back on the offensive line. The defense, though, was a disaster. Opposing teams averaged 35 points. 5 teams put up at least 40 points versus the Rams. They closed out their season with a 44-0 loss at Wyoming, so that doesn't bode very, very well for this season. Wyoming, speaking of them, they were also 3-9, but they should be much improved. The entire front 4 returns on defense. The offense, though, was a question mark. Brett Smith, a true freshman, is going to start at quarterback for Wyoming. They'd have a good running back in Alvester Alexander. They have a very weak non-conference schedule, which could get them to the 6 wins they need for a bowl game. New Mexico, it's been a nightmare for Mike Locksley the last 2 years on and off the field. 2-22. Last year, opponents averaged 44 points and 5.3 yards per carry. On offense, the Lobos averaged 2.9 yards per rush. Tareen Austin's a sophomore who played a few games last year before getting injured is going to be the new starting quarterback. He's a decent runner and scrambler, and he was 57 and 97 last year passing. So we'll see how that goes. Junior Casey Courier and James Wright return at running back for New Mexico. And UNLV, Bobby Hauck had an impossible task last year. He had a very young team playing an extremely tough schedule. They went 2-11. Opposing teams scored at least 40 points in 8 of the 13 games. They will be a little bit this year. Actually, I'm picking them for second to last this year. Caleb Herring will be the quarterback. They have a great receiver in Philip Payne. But it's not out of the question for the Rebels to win 5 games this year because the schedule is much easier than last year. So, but I'm going to pick them 7th and New Mexico last. Here's my list, if I can find it here. Number 1, Boise State. 2, TCU. 3, San Diego State. 4, Air Force. 5, Wyoming. 6, Colorado State. 7th, UNLV, and New Mexico at last. Dave.
Well, I have Boise on top, and I think if Boise gets by Georgia, well, certainly they're favored in every game this year. Okay, as of right now, they're favored in every game. It won't be easy, but they have a chance to be unbeaten. I don't see, and with the schedule being what it is, with the challenges they have in the schedule, I got to tell you something. If they're unbeaten, they belong in the national championship game. I don't want to hear, oh, they don't play the SEC. They got a tough schedule. All right, at San Diego State. They were a very good team last year. I don't know if they'll be as good this year. I don't think they will, in fact, but it's a challenge. TCU is always a challenge. Georgia it's a road game. I thought last year, had they not lost the overtime game in Reno, they had as good an argument as anybody to be playing in that national championship game. That's the problem with the setup the way it is right now, is they never really did have a chance to do that. But Boise's the best team in the league. I don't really think it's that close. They're just there's no position where they're weak. I can't find any real weaknesses on the football team. And in some areas they're extremely strong. Kellen Moore is one of the best college quarterbacks you're ever going to see. They're extremely well coached. Chris Peterson has had tons of big offers and has rejected them all to stay in Boise. They have a real shot to win all their games. I think I'm going to pick a little bit of an upset for the second spot. I'm going to go with Air Force. I like this team. I think this is Calhoun's best team. Get tremendous senior leadership at the quarterback position. in Tim Jefferson. He's a really good football player. I mean, he's not an NFL guy, but he's perfect for what Air Force runs. This is the most experienced Air Force team that they've had in a while. 14 starters back for Air Force is a lot. And they run a very unique system that the teams don't see, and it's very difficult to deal with. I also like the way their schedule's configured. Now, I mean, they got to go to Boise. I'm not expecting them to win that game. But you look at the rest of the schedule, they've got TCU in the second week. Well, they got them at home. That's the time of year to catch TCU. Mm-hmm. The Horned Frogs are going to be vulnerable early. At Navy, won't be easy, but they should win that game. I think they'll lose at Notre Dame, and I think they'll lose at Boise. I don't think they'll lose any other games. I mean, this is a team that has a real shot to go 10-2. They haven't won 10 since back in the 90s. I think this team's absolutely loaded. As for TCU, I said this when we just introed the piece on the conference. They've got tremendous talent, but a lot of it's very young. So the 13-0 from last year, I think that winning streak will come to an end. My guess is they'll get past Baylor this weekend. I don't think it'll be easy by any means, but then they have to go to Air Force. But the bottom line is that's a very tough way for a team with as few returning starters as Air Force, as TCU, to be opening. And I suspect they're going to kind of get one loss in their first two games. They've also got to go to San Diego State. They've also got to go to Boise State. BYU is going to be tough this year. There's some potential potholes in the schedule for TCU. So, after winning as many games as they've won the last few years, I think they'll take a step backward this year. 13-0, 12-1, 11-2. They had an 8-5 year in 2007 and 11 win seasons before that. So I think this could be similar to 2007 in some regards. Maybe not 8-5, but 9-4 sounds reasonable. Or 9-3, somewhere in that area. But they'll still be really good. However, I'm picking Air Force ahead of them. San Diego State, I believe, will take a step backward. Everything went right for them last year, except for some bad officiating. That didn't go right for them. They got screwed in the Missouri game. There was a long play in that game in the final minute, which allowed Missouri to win the game. Just a clear penalty on Missouri on the game-winning touchdown. It was just blatantly obvious they didn't call it. The BYU game, somehow there was a replay that didn't overturn what was clearly a BYU fumble. Awful call. BYU replay officials didn't turn the call over. That cost them that football game. And I understand that you can say, well, how can you say one play cost them? Believe me, it cost them the football game. Mm-hmm. BYU scored in that possession. They should not have had the football. That's the difference in the football game. They took TCU. Now, the Utah game, they blew a huge lead and lost 38-34. Should have won that football game. They gave that one away. The TCU game, they lost by 5. It wasn't really that close, okay? They made a late run. They certainly gave them a respectable game. But anyway, that's how close they came to being 13-0 because they won their bowl game in a breeze over Navy. This team is not as good. They really lose a lot at wide receiver. Brown, Sampson, Sullivan, these were some weapons, especially Brown. Sampson, even though he had a lot of injury problems, was as well. So I don't think they're going to be as strong there. I don't think the offensive line will be quite as good as it was last year, even though they returned 4 starters. I don't know why. I call that one a gut feeling. It was so seamless last year. It was amazing at times. And they don't have Brady Hoke. Rocky Long might not be. Rocky Long's a good coach. He did a lot of good things in New Mexico, but he never coached what I consider to be a powerhouse roster. He was a guy who got it done in conservative fashion, run the football, play good defense. I don't know how he does with a team that's as explosive as this one is with Ryan Lindley at quarterback and Ronnie Hillman at running back. We'll see. I think they'll take a step backward this year. They should still be a decent football team, and I think they'll be a team that gets to a bowl game. But I don't think the Aztecs will have the kind of year they had last year where, again, were it not for a couple of officiating calls, they're at least an 11-win football team. That's how close they were. Colorado State is interesting. coming out of the spring, I thought they'd battle San Diego State for fourth place in the conference. I no longer feel that way, and it's a question of just how much they're going to drop. They've got suspensions all over the place. I know that Miami's getting all the attention with their suspensions, and rightfully so. But Colorado State has a lot of players suspended for issues off the field. So there's a discipline issue on this team, and I think we saw it at the end of last year when they just completely mailed it in their last two games. Got destroyed by BYU in their home field, 49-10. And then in a thoroughly embarrassing game, they go to Wyoming, and Wyoming was not good. And they lose 44-0 to their closest rival. I think Fairchild might be on the hot seat this year. It looks to me like he doesn't have real good control of the team. They've regressed since his opening there. You know, you can look back. They were 3-9 his first year, but they were 7-6 and won a bowl game. In their second year, they've gone 3-9 back to back. And I think last year's 3-9 was a disappointment. I didn't have a problem with the 3-9 in 2009. They lost a ton of people and they went backwards, but I thought they were a flop last year. There is talent on this team, but something's wrong there. And I'm picking them fifth in the conference, but it wouldn't shock me if they lose to like UNLV and lose a couple other games that they shouldn't win, that they shouldn't lose. It could be worse than that. So I think they're going in the wrong direction. UNLV is going to improve. I don't think it'll show because their schedule is kind of configured. It's an easier schedule than last year in terms of the overall caliber of opposition, but it's not an easier schedule because their most winnable games are all on the road. Well, UNLV is not exactly a juggernaut away from home, but you know, you look at New Mexico, it's on the road. You look at Wyoming, it's on the road. You look at Nevada, which isn't as good as they were a year ago, it's on the road. Washington State, I don't think they're quite at that level, but you know, I think Washington State could be considered a winnable game. That's on the road. The home games are against the tough teams. Hawaii's coming in. Southern Utah, they'll win that. Colorado State, well, I mean, I don't think they're as talented as Colorado State, although I might go out on a limb and pick them by the time that game rolls around, especially coming off a bye week. They got Boise at home. Good luck with that. San Diego State, who they're not as good at. But I think UNLV is going to improve. I think they can win 3 and possibly 4. I think they can beat New Mexico, even on the road. I'm going to call for them to upset Colorado State. I think they'll beat Southern Utah. It wouldn't shock me if they go to Wyoming and win. The question is, how quickly do they mature? They're a very young football team. Only 24 upperclassmen who are scholarship players. That's a really small amount. But the upside is, after the Idaho game last year, which was in week 3, basically Coach Houck decided at that point, okay, you know what? So you seniors, you guys kind of mailed it in. I'm going to start playing the young guys. So the young players in this team, the sophomores in particular, they got a lot of action last year. I think they may come along faster than people think, and I do think he's a good coach. So they're not a good football team. And I think the absolute most they can win, personally, I don't think it's more than 4, Jeff. But, you know, those wins outside, 3 of those wins could be in conference. And if they can do that, it might move them past a couple of teams. Wyoming's got real problems at the quarterback spot. Just a weird thing with Connor Samuels. He was still on campus as recently as 2 weeks ago. He wasn't listed on the roster, but there was still this thought that, well, he's there, so he's probably going to come back. Well, he's not. He didn't have a good year anyway last year, but you know, Brett Smith, I don't know, true freshman, he's got credentials. Okay, he's a good recruit, but I don't know. It looks to me like he's really going to struggle as a true freshman. It's not like he's surrounded by a great deal of talent. I do like Dave Christensen, though. I think he's a good coach. So maybe they can come along better than it looks to me on paper. I don't think they're any better than UNLV on paper. I think those two teams are about even. Last place is New Mexico on paper. They're better. But this is a badly coached team, and basically we know that Mike Locksley is only still there because they can't afford to pay him and then hire somebody else. That's about what it comes down to. All right. On paper, I don't know. They're no worse than Wyoming or UNLV. They might even be better, but I don't think they've got a clue. They've gone 1-11 each of the last 2 years. They had a win over Wyoming last year by 3 points, and the year before that they beat New Mexico's. Who did they beat the year before? They beat Colorado State by 2. So they've got a grand total of 2 wins by 5 points under Mike Locksley in 2 years. They're a bad program, really bad, and I think they'll finish last again. So Boise State or bust. That's the only team I believe in this league that has a chance to get to the BCS, and who knows? You know, if things fall right, maybe they'll get denied their opportunity to play for the national championship. They'll find a new excuse to keep Boise out. But I think they're the team to beat in the conference. The game I'm talking about, well, it doesn't involve any of these teams. My college opening week crusher is $25 if you call today. It's $49 if you buy it online on Saturday. But today, $25, and it's available right now. You don't have to wait till Saturday. Guaranteed to get the money, or you get all of September free of charge. And again, it's just $25. Make the call. Be sure you're on this football game. First week, I almost always crush it in college football. I think my opinion is sharper than the numbers that are out there, which a lot of them are public perception numbers. So, you know, and I'll tell you, what I use in the first week is a mix of big favorites and big dogs. Big favorites who are even much better than the line indicates against their opponents, or big dogs that are being underrated, or against the team perhaps that's being overrated. I do real well with this formula in week 1. I'm going to nail it again. This is a pretty good sized favorite that I'm using for this big game, but it's going to get there. And I think it's going to get there easily. Get the game. $25 with a great guarantee. 1-866-896-1634. And Jeff, 7 full days for $1 a day. Not going to beat that.
They're going to take you all the way through the weekend with all 3 sports, college, NFL preseason, and baseball. 7 days, $7. You get all the 5-star winners. Just call LVSS 1-866-575-8918. 1-875-8918.
Well, the SEC is still to come. We're going to get to that one pretty quickly. We'll come back tomorrow and do that because we want to have you up to speed on everybody going into the brand new season. And then we'll have the weekend edition of Proline, where we'll take a look at some games and some actual games in depth. That'll be airing on Friday. So be sure to check back in tomorrow for another edition of Proline. For Jeff, I'm Dave. Thanks for watching, and have yourself a great day.